我是于心怡，Cindy 游，现在是 PC Club 从2005年到2007年之间的会长。站在我旁边呢是 James 高金波，他是我们的 Club 的 founder 和PC Club 03年到05年的会长。今天大家都很高兴在这里，因为这是我们第4届年会，前面几届都非常成功，所以我们希望今天的年会也给大家带来很多的收益，就像给我们带来很多的收益一样。下面呢，我请高会长给大家介绍一下，谢谢。
好，谢谢大家好，我叫 James 高，是中文名字叫高静波，我是这个俱乐部的发起人之一。我们几个人呢一起在2003年9月份共同发起这个俱乐部，这个叫父母子女教育俱乐部。为什么叫父母子女呢？因为那个教育子女呢，要先从父母开始，然后呢才能够带动孩子。父母的榜样是比这个任何一个事情都会加深这个子女的教育。所以说呢，那我们这个俱乐部的 mission 呢，就是说是为了情商教育，发展小孩的领导能力。组织能力和社交能力，这样的话呢，把我们的华人的孩子呢，能带到一个更高的一个阶段。我们都知道，我们华人的孩子呢，在这里的，尤其男孩子比较shy，不会爱说话。不是像美国人这样，那我们希望我们的华人孩子能够在美国的社会有一定的贡献，然后呢从小开始，所以说我们父母子女教育俱乐部呢就形成一个平台，给我们这些华人呢提供一个交流的平台。我们从开始的几个家庭开始，到现在有500多个家庭，逐渐的壮大。这是我们每年一次conference，讨论不同的主题。关于子女教育方面的，同时呢，我们每个月也请来不同的专家给我们介绍一下这个过来的经验。这样的话呢，我们会少走弯路，走更成功的路，给我们那个孩子一个很好的一个前途，这就是我们的目的。那我也希望呢，大家能加入我们这个俱乐部。俱乐部的话呢，我们网上有一个叫做雅虎 Group。你可以注册到那里，同时你可以访问我们那个俱乐部的网站，叫 www.pce club.org。P 是 parent，C 是 children，E 是 education，PCE club.org。我们雅虎的那个 group， 你可以在网上看到。谢谢大家，希望大家还有一个美好的明天，谢谢。
像高金波高先生刚才说的是的，这个俱乐部。已经举办了很多的活动，然后呢，我们给很多的家长带来了很多的收益。现在呢，我们有新会长张颖婷女士，她呢给大家介绍一下我们就是明年有什么计划。谢谢。
谢谢 Cindy 谢谢 James 这2位前任给我压力很大，因为他们实在把目标都那个 standard set 得很 high， 我一定要match up with 这样的 high expectations 哈。我参加 club 也有一段时间，学到了很多。club 这么多年来，从婴儿期到少儿期，现在基本上在 preschool 阶段吧，取得了那么大的成就，有这么多的 volunteer。在那里参与是主要的原因，在接下来的1年呢，我希望把这个 club 继续发扬光大。我们已经有大概的12次活动，基本上都已经定下来了。我们从 leadership development，EQ development 开始，再着重从early children 到 middle child 或者再到 teenager， 怎么去了解他们的内心思想，怎么去挖掘他们心里真正所想的，他们的 dream 是什么，我们怎么去 avoid 我们的文化之间的冲突，代沟之间的冲突，达到真正的理解跟了解，而不是表面上的。孩子聪明得很，家长如果是真的要想了解或者去理解他们，从表面他们就看得出来。所以我们希望在这1年里边呢，我们能达到更高一层的level，然后对社区也有更多的贡献。谢谢。
我这时介绍一下那个多维时报，我们跟俱乐部已经第3次合作，每年的 conference 他们出了很多力，这是牛新力是新泽西多维时报的总经理，所以请他讲一讲这几年的对俱乐部的印象。
大家好，我叫琳达，中文名字是牛新力，我是多维时报新泽西分社的总经理。那我们和 PCE 就是父母子女教育俱乐部合办这个年会呢，已经是第3次。在这3年中间呢，其实大家都是，特别是我们多维时报一直在摸索，一直在探索怎么样一个合作的更好的方式，然后能够让新泽西社区的华人家长呢更多的 involve 到这个活动中间来。可以说呢，每一年我们都在进步，每一年呢也获取更多的知识和经验。那今年呢是我们第3次活动，每年的主题都不一样。然后今年呢，我们还同时进行了征文活动。征文活动呢是对应那个Virginia Tech的那个枪击案。然后这个征文活动发出去以后呢，由于是在这个暑期，响应的人不是特别多。但是呢，以后我们想，可能这种好多活动的方式呢，会随着这个新移民结构的不断的调整，我们的内容也会有很多新的改进和新的方法。那个多维时报呢，在新泽西已经有5年了，我们也是一个逐步成长的过程。我们属于多维媒体公司，多维媒体公司呢，它下边有多维时报、金周刊、多维新闻网、多维月刊，现在还有多维电视。员工呢，我们现在员工呢有100多人。多维时报发行在全美10个州，而且呢，我们现在呢就说这个发展呢是越来越壮大，越来越蓬勃。同时，我们也在此呢感谢社区各界人士的大力支持。这几年多维的发展离不开社区的支持。另外呢，也感谢所有在座的家长对我们 PCE Club 每一次年会和每一个月活动的支持。希望大家更多的支持我们，谢谢。
站在我旁边的是 Dennis 吴，他是我们从创始以来的 Treasure， 已经给 Club 贡献了5年，差不多快5年的时间了吧。他给大家介绍一下我们这 Club 就是成立之后受到的各方面的支持，谢谢啊。
谢谢 Cindy。那个我是 Dennis 吴建华，我是 Treasure。这5年来，就说承蒙各地的支持，还有就说，尤其是 Citibank 啊，还有其他几个local 的这个 company 跟 merchant， 大家都很极力支持我们的活动。然后我们的经费呢，基本上是经过这个 donation， 还有另外就是收集一些 membership fee 来维持。所以希望以后呢，还是继续能得到大家的赞助。谢谢。
现在呢，我想介绍一下王一平教授，他是我们第4届年会的主讲人。王教授呢，从前就读于南京师范大学，后来来美国之后就读于 Pacific Oaks College in California 和普渡大学，获得了儿童教育方面的学士、硕士和博士。他有多年教育和研究的经验。现在他就职于罗格斯大学和 Robert Wood Jonson 医学研究所。现在呢，我想请王教授介绍一下他的感受，谢谢。
谢谢。今天很高兴在这边哈，我来美国已经20多年了，从西部到中部，现在到 New Jersey， 这还是我第一次看到这样一个 Parent Education Club， 而且这个 club 对这个 parenting in United States 这个 topic 非常重视，我觉得是非常 impressive。对我自己来讲，自己是搞教育的，所以似乎是感觉到找到了一个 home to support our parenting， 所以我是非常 impressive。就这个对这个 club 这5年所做的所取得的成绩，有这么多 membership， annual conference 每个月的这个讲座，所有的其他活动，这对我们这个 Asian community 来讲是一个非常好的一个环境来 support 我们 parenting， 所以我今天很高兴来这边成为这个community 的一个成员，谢谢。
Parents and the Children Education Club, the PCE Club. We do appreciate your time and efforts to involve our activities. I think most of our attendants are already a member of PCE. So I will just give you a very brief introduction of today's agenda. Mainly speaking, we will have 3 sessions in this whole afternoon. The first session is the keynote speech by Professor Yiping Wang, and the topic is Leveraging the Strength of Diversity, the Cultural Adaptation and the Mental Growth of Immigrant Children. And the second session will be held by our teenagers. It is called Fishbowl Forum. And the last session is the panel discussion. We actually invite different panelists from different areas to share their knowledge and experience in this topic. And I believe that most of you will enjoy today's conference. So let me first introduce the president of PCE Club, Cindy Yu, to give us an open remark. Welcome, Cindy.
Thanks, Jenny. I apologize, so we have a few minutes delay. I appreciate you guys come this afternoon. Before we start the conference, I'd like to introduce the mission of the PCE. I feel, everything we do, especially this conference, is around what PCE is about and what PCE is trying to serve. To me, PCE Club, it's like a big house, right? This is a regional sample by the founders of the club who have designed to show the commitment the club will have to serve our parents, our kids, and our community, and to provide a discussion forum for parents on topics of child education, fostering self-confidence, traits of leadership, and broadening the horizon of vision. It's to provide a stage for our children to show their talents, to express their views, and learn to present themselves. This really showed in our monthly event. I don't know how many of you have gone there before. Our first part of monthly event always going to be the children's talent show, and this is exactly what the PCE Club is trying to do. Third, the House of the PCE Club is also to try to create and maintain an environment that fostering each member's personal growth. This is what's focusing on the parents. That's always the second part of the monthly event. The parents will exchange experience and lessons learned in their parenting experience in our monthly event. We also have experts like what we do today in our monthly event too, to talk about various aspects of the development needs of the parents. This is what showed in the fourth mission of the club. It's to explore each member's potential by exposure to different fields of interest. We talk about sports, music instruments, talk about history, astrology, geography, all the things that we feel as a parents we need to develop to match up the growth of the children. And this is what PCE is trying to provide. We also encourage and influence our kids with positive peer pressure. Everything in PCE is about positive environment and positive reinforcement. So that's one of the reasons we haven't put our talent show as a competition. Instead, we make it as an encouraging environment for the children to have the opportunity to show, to develop. Last but not least, is to promote the growth of the EQ instead of just the IQ. As the providers of the house, which is our volunteer officers, this is a list of them. I don't think all of them are here, but for those of you who are here, can you please stand up so people know who they can go to when they have questions about the club. James, start with you. Can you stand up and help Yingting? And Jenny, please. Please stand up, and thank you. Who else is here? Maggie is outside still working, and all of us here are volunteers. Just like PCE, we're non-profit, non-religious, volunteer organization. We are parents ourselves, and we understand what parents need. So with that, here's some accomplishments I list here just during the year 2005 and 2007. Even though the club has started from mid-year of 2003, so it's our 5th year. Just during the period 2005 2007, the club has organized 24 events, including the 2 prior annual conference. We have grew the online forum message with a 10 times more volume. And we have also formalized the house. That means we are an official nonprofit organization. Any donation we receive will be officially tax deductible. We have also established a functional website where we can use for registration, for information, and also we can support, because the efforts of everybody that I've just mentioned earlier, we can support from the community, from the parents, and from the media. So if some of you have not joined the club, I'd like to invite you to join the house and enjoy the appreciation and the rewarding experience. And you receive this membership appreciation card. And what's exciting me more is that we're going to have a brand new leadership team and the leadership of Yingting Zhang. And I'm very excited to have her to continue the legacy of the club. Without further ado, I want to introduce Miss Linda New, and she's our partner of the conference, and she's going to give a brief introduction of what her experience was the conference. Thank you.
谢谢 Cindy， 我叫 Linda， 我是多维时报的。我相信这个在座的诸位热心的家长一定都看过多维时报，因为多维时报呢在新泽西已经有5年的历史了，然后整个呢我们多维媒体公司呢有8年的历史。那我们今年呢是和 PCE 和 Club 一起合办第3次年会。其实呢，我们也是一直在逐步的在摸索一些经验，也逐步的在完善我们这个活动。今天呢，非常感谢这么多热心的家长能够来到这个地方来参加这个活动。那也希望我们的活动呢能够办得让诸位家长满意。那多维呢，其实一直以来非常关心教育这一块，我们有专门的教育版面。不知道大家有没有留意？希望在座的家长呢，以后有在教育方面的心得，或者是有教育方面教育子女的一些想法，给我们积极的投稿。然后呢，也希望大家都应教育到我们这个 PCE Club 里边来。谢谢。
Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Cindy. A very impressive introduction. Probably most of us, also like me, are very interested in knowing what is going to happen to our club in future 2 years. So let me introduce the president of PCE, Yingting Zhang, to give us a brief introduction. Welcome, Yingting.
Thank you, Jenny. I promise I will be very short. I know we are here to listen to the speakers, not just us. The club, since its conception, its establishment in, I think, 2003, it has gone through 4 years from its infancy, developed from infancy, toddlership, and now we are in the stage of preschool, heading towards a very promising future. I hope in the coming year we will accomplish more things that you will be interested in. I'm going to introduce our 12 upcoming 12 monthly events in the coming year. In the next coming months, it will be leadership development by Cecilia. Maybe in Chinese you know better, Xie Lan. And then we'll talk about children's mental health. Some people are not as fortunate as we are. They have children that with lots of challenges facing them. And we want to address that part too. That will be broken or beautiful to advocate for those children in school. And then we'll also talk about, we always have an end-year party. The party is not just for fun and then recreation. we summarized the whole year's accomplishments and looking ahead for the future. And then we'll do a series of small lectures from early children to middle childhood to teenagers, so that we try to understand these groups of children better, to help them better, to understand them better, so that they'll communicate with us, the parents, in a real sense instead of kind of phony way. They can tell that you are not being truthful. When you say, Mommy, don't compare. Mommy said that we don't compare with other people. We compare only with ourselves. On the other hand, I say, who's already done that? How about you? So we are doing very conflicting things in daily life without even realizing it. And then we'll do the next thing, like we all send our kids to Chinese school. We didn't realize what the real purpose, what kind of goals, objectives you want to reach. How are your children doing in the Chinese school? Do you really understand the real situation there? So Rebecca Huang will address how to raise a successful bilingual children or even trilingual children. Then we also have children who are so artistic. Do you really encourage your kids to pursue their degree in those areas, even though they are very talented, and you send them to extracurricular activities? When they really want to pursue that kind of dreams, do you encourage them wholeheartedly? We doubt. We also have outdoors, those outings helping us to understand each other better. And then also we have the 5th annual conference, always in September, and the theme hasn't been decided yet. And we have officers. By the way, the club has been to this far. It wouldn't be that successful without the efforts, time, volunteering of so many officers, so many people in the club. And many of them continue their volunteering in the next coming year. And just name a few. Our Vice President, Dennis Wu, he has been a treasurer for all the years. And James, one of the founders and the past chair of the board, he'll continue on the board. And all these people, and Cindy, of course, will move down to be the chair of the board. And so many others because of the limit of time. I'm not going to mention every one of them. And everyone here are welcome to join this team. It's a very rewarding learning experience for me, and I'm sure for you too. I'm sorry, I said I for short. I still cannot help it. You know, women are very talkative. So that's all.
暑假期间，很多的家长呢，也许是没有看到这个新闻，也许呢可能忙于在 vacation 啊，回中国啊，所以呢参加的人并不是很多。我们收到的征文呢，这个案子很有限。那在这个地方呢，我特别感谢参加了我们这次征文活动的人。那特别值得提出来的呢，是我们那个 Wendy Wang， 就是刚才大家有看到参加 Fishbowl 的这个小姑娘啊，她呢是唯一一个在那个 teenager 参加这个征文的这个孩子，她是用英文写的。本来呢其实是应该发在多维时报上边，但是排版上面有一些问题。不过我们可能后边会想办法把这篇文章发出来。那待会呢我们也有Wendy的讲。那我们在收到的有限的征文里面呢做了一个评比。那今年呢我们的这个特别的奖还是发给了商乐维先生。那个其实我估计可能大家都还记得，商乐维呢他已经是第2次得到我们这个 PCE Club 的这个有奖征文的获奖者。他呢其实也是很积极的参加社区的一些活动。特别是在教育子女方面，我觉着他还是蛮有心得的。一会儿呢，我们请商乐维先生上来领一下奖，然后呢，这有一个 certificate， 然后顺便请他讲2句。时间有限啊，商乐维请。谢谢啊，还有这个，这是支票。
谢谢琳达，谢谢大家啊，这个我这个参加这个竞赛呢，是琳达要我写的。他刚才说了没几个人写，所以我就不要讲。文章不能回头看，一看呢就觉得那个谬误越来越多。我写的文章不知有的人看了，这个 我主要是讲小孩就是要经风雨见世面，就是说你的这个健康的心理呢，就是说有很大程度上是和你的这个经风雨见世面有关系。也就是说，父母讲和这个学校的这种经历可能不能取代，就是说我自己个人的经历。也就是说，我以前小时候很怕黑呀，但是有一次被迫一个人在家里，8、9岁一个人在家里搞了2个星期，然后周围都没有人，这样的话以后一下胆子大很多了，因为那时候一听到人声，马上就不一样。所以这个有时候我们吃点苦头，我们还是有好处的。这里我所讲的就是，
我有一个问题，大家都这么说啊，但是我有一个什么想法，我就觉得人和人不一样。那比方说以前我们医疗条件不好啊，好多小孩都生存出来，但是好多小孩还死了呢。那你说我怎么知道我的小孩有那胆量坚持？
对，这就是我讲的。我回头一看，觉得这个东西大家都follow也不行。就是说，比方这个小孩，你当然是要鼓励了，对吧？你不能把小孩，这个我当然是被迫的。但是现在你8、9岁放在家里，你就是 illegal 了。所以，就说这个越想这个谬误越多，但是呢，当时也就是这么想的，就是说。我觉得大家的讨论很好，这个父母和子女要有个沟通，矛盾是肯定的，就是说我们要求的是怎么去沟通，我们不能求回避矛盾。我总想一个 perfect 的 relationship， 我们就是no pain no 矛盾的这种成长过程，这个过程可能是很难有的。所以只是说你把这些矛盾、这些经历能够转化为一个 positive result， 这就是我们需要的。好，谢谢。
好的，现在呢，我们请那个森迪玉 Cindy 来给我们的小作者温迪颁奖。Cindy 在吗？颖婷，来，你就掰吧。来，给我们那个温迪旺颁奖。哎，我们这个format还蛮多的。Wendy, congratulations. Thank you for participating in this contest. Do you have anything to say? Thank you very much. If your daddy was not here in the audience today, would you be able to say a lot more in the forum? Not just curious. Okay. Thank you very much. 我们希望呢，今后在各种各样的征文活动中间，希望在座的诸位都积极参加。好。
For young people, and Linda tried to say, but I'm not youth. I said, you're very young, so you're still youth. It's just 3 teenagers, and she's outgrown teenage years. So she actually, we talked to bounce off some ideas, and we pretty much left it as she will be active as a participant and not as a moderator today, because as a moderator you will not be talking about your own experience. So leave that job to me, so free her up. But on the other hand, she had given me a lot of input already. So first of all, let's each of you introduce yourself, your name, age. That's what we wanted to get started.
Hi everyone, my name is Wendy Wang, and I'm 13 years old. So I'm a freshman in Edison at JB Stevens.
Okay, I'm Linda. I currently is pursuing my MBA degrees at Rutgers University, and right now I'm okay revealing my age. I'm 25 going to 26, so I've walked through some of the hardships growing up, but at the same time I can see it from a different perspective, from more of a parent's perspective now.
Okay, thank you. The format of this forum is called Fishbowl Forum, and as if we are inside a fishbowl where you can all observe. So mostly when we use this format is for the majorities to listen to the voices of the minorities. So in here, these children, among all these parents, they're the minorities. We don't want their voice to be swallowed or, or challenged. We want them to feel comfortable. When you need eye contact, you can have eye contact with me. You don't have to have eye contact with parents or with your audience. So that's the idea. So for parents, if you want to have a question, you can take this seat. We always have a empty seat. This is the standard practice. So feel free to come and don't stay here forever. And then once you get your questions answered or at appropriate time, maybe I will signal you, you can return to the bigger circle, outer circle we call it. So the inner circle discussion will kind of move on uninterrupted. So the idea is for me to just throw out a couple of questions, pretty much as start the sharing, okay? And what I would like to do is, instead of very challenging questions, mostly is just set your mindset. So throughout the age, and then today you've been sitting here, listening to Professor Wang. You know the topic, the theme is surrounding identity, the mental growth, and the things that some of this maybe you wish your parents knew at the time or now. I know some of your parents purposely not being here for that purpose, but you can talk that out so for other parents to learn what kind of things hard for kids to bring up. I'll give you an example. For instance, there were some illegal immigrants, kids. They experienced the kind of crisis we discussed today, but there's no way they could share that with their parents, because what could their parents do? Their parents themselves was still struggling. I know, Linda, you were born in China. You came here at the age of 6, but all the others here, you were all born here. You came here at 6. You were born here. Okay, so I wanted to just have some of these cards, very simple, as opposed to having you guys all fighting over, what to talk about. And once you have a question, it's not really like a question. It's pretty much, it's give you something to start. And then the others can follow, can tag along certain comments. Okay, so pretty much we go this way. So that everybody has something to share. So parents can join anytime, when you want to. So that's okay. Let's get started. And meanwhile, as you're talking, I, as a moderator, I might pose certain questions just so that we make sure we are all on the same line. Okay? Okay. So pretty much just pick a card. You have a couple minutes to prepare, or you want to get started?
I wouldn't say a lot, but there are definitely more in high school.
Could you give us a couple of examples? So your experience has been in middle school, situations were a little bit worse than high school. Because first, high school kids kind of outgrown and they knew kind of how to handle diversity. But so some of our parents might have kids are currently in middle school. Their kids probably never told them anything. Or they have kids going into middle school. Could you give some of the examples?
Well, I guess people tend to lump Asian together. They don't distinguish between Chinese, Korean, Japanese. Mm-hmm. So it gets annoying when someone goes up to you and goes sushi.
Okay, so kids could just come up to you and just say sushi.
Yeah.
So
I'm Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
That's just one example.
How usually when that kind of happen when you were in middle school at that age? That would be about 13, 14? Yeah. About 12, 13, 14. Yeah. What usually how did you feel?
Oh, I got used to it. I just
kind of. So you actually got used to it.
I just had to feel like I'm Chinese.
So those kind of experience, or you feel free to add some other experience. I wanted to see how, as a middle-aged kid, how you really react to it. You know, it is possible some of those things bother you, some of the things did not bother you. You know, so parents need to know, because when it comes to them, their kids probably always tell them fine, good, you know. So they wanted to know how you really feel. Another example? Did you?
Or American, like we're just talking about. It's kind of confusing.
When for you, when was that when you felt kind of confusing?
It was later in middle school, so about like 7th or 8th grade.
So actually, when you were a teenager, actually that kind of confusing experience comes out. So sometimes our parents will say, "Oh, my kids feels fine." It's probably their kids are young enough, not feeling that. So for you, it's 13, 14, kind of confusing. What kind of impact was it have on you? When you feel confused, did it have any impact?
Personally, I tend to just withdraw.
You just withdraw. So you give people this impression, oh, Asian kids are all, you know, quiet or introvert, you know, not very social. And is that's you think that's part of what's actually going on in your mind? Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't talk much when I'm there.
You don't talk.
I'm more introverted than extroverted, so.
You look quite comfortable right now.
Oh, well, yeah, I got better.
So kids do get better, you know, even from that kind of experience.
Yeah.
Anything you guys wanted to add, particularly to that teenager years? Because we all parents, some of us with kids preteen or still young, we feel like a teenager, you know. Even sometimes my children will say, "Mom, when I come back from Beijing, I will be a teenager." So that's interesting. Anything to add during that critical years? Not yet? You want to add anything?
Okay. Well, first of all, I'd like to start by, I wrote my name wrong on my name badge. So I was watching my dad sign his papers this morning in Chinese, so I accidentally copied his name.
Copied his name, not his first name? Copied his first name?
Yeah, copied his first name.
Not his last name,
yeah.
Which you share.
I don't know how that happened. But when I was going through middle school, it wasn't, because a lot of times I was in all the higher level classes, and even then, we had a pretty good mix between Caucasian and Asian, and so I had a lot of Caucasian friends starting from from beginning of elementary school, because it always seemed that I would be in the one class where I was the only Asian person in my class, and then other classes would have like 10 Asians in one class, and I would be the only one in mine. So I got used really quickly to interacting with a lot of Caucasian people. So when I moved into elementary school, I had a good base. When I moved into middle school, I had a good base from elementary school. So they were able to connect me with some of their friends, so I got to meet their friends. And ever since then, it's been growing. And I found that a lot of my friends who had a primarily Asian class in elementary school tend to stick with the Asians throughout the rest of their years.
So if they, particularly from what your observation was, if the kids, when they were in elementary school, if they started to have Asian friends in their class, they tend to be more likely to associate with Asian students in the higher grades.
Yeah, probably. I have a lot of Asian friends too, and I guess I hang out with them more compared to the Caucasians. But I was lucky that I had a lot of Caucasian friends.
Because of your prior years experience. Okay.
Yeah.
Something to take a note of. Okay. Did you, so looking back, we're talking about middle school years, did you feel that anything related to race in particular that had a negative impact? Because I know it could have a lot of positive impact, but today, because of time, we're just focusing. We parents want to zoom in on the negative feelings. Tell me the things my kids wouldn't tell me. Was there any kind of negative kind of impact related to identity, race in your own experience?
Yeah, most of the time, everybody assumes an Asian person to be very smart because most of the time we are. I only know one Asian person in our grade who's below average and who's not in the highest level math, which maybe it's just because my township is very good, or maybe, I don't know. But
was there any kind of negative impact on you? No, it's all positive. As they kind of just walk into these stereotypes, so make their life a little bit more challenging, you think, than you are?
Maybe like twice a year at most.
They got count.
Yeah.
They will feel something. So very quantitative on twice a year. So in general, from your experience, you don't think it's overwhelming in middle school, Mm-hmm.
I guess it's because we're like in the Northeast. That there's not a lot that racism and prejudice isn't that heavy and intense.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed if we go say down south or out into the Midwest where it's primarily Caucasian and the only Asian kid, it's a lot more.
Okay,
I feel it a lot more.
So that's kind of reassuring for us parents. Okay, we're in the right kind of area.
Yeah.
So then. So most of the impact, as you discussed, is mostly coming from inside. Feel confused or a little bit, but not too bad. Yeah. What was your card?
My card is, what was your experience like when you were in elementary school? And actually, I moved here from Delaware, and there were a few Asian people in my class. At most, I can remember maybe 2 or 3 others, but most of the time, I didn't have any real troubles adapting. My neighbor was Chinese, and ever since then we've been very good friends, but I've also gotten to be very good friends with my other neighbors, and I still keep in touch.
Who are not
Chinese.
Okay. So your family actually chose to be sociable with both neighbors, or just you try to get to know the non-Asian?
It was probably because it was a new community with all new buildings, so everybody had to get to know each other very well, and it's like building a new community rather than moving into a new one. So everybody was encouraged to know each other a lot more, and I had a pretty American childhood. We would play baseball in the summer and stuff like that, but that didn't extend to me. That extended to my Chinese neighbor too. So we both kind of had a Americanized childhood rather than a more traditional Chinese childhood.
When you look back, at that kind of age, elementary school, in your little head, were you very conscious, I'm Chinese American, I need to associate with Chinese American, consciously? Now you look back, or consciously or unconsciously. Was it a factor or at all? Because we wanted to know. We wanted to be able to read our kids. Was it? Probably, yes or no? Or?
Well, I guess in elementary school, you're small. You don't really think about these things. You just play with everyone.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, I think all our kids here are very nice. Because I actually, in elementary school, because we're talking about this, is very rebellious. I'm not your goody-goody two-shoe, study well, I actually failed a lot of my courses, went 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade, and in 4th grade, my teacher wanted to let me back because I was not doing well. Well, the reason why I wasn't doing well, obviously later on when I thought back to it, is because I was always the outcast. Always, when I moved here when I was 6 years old, so I came here from 1st grade on, and my English wasn't well, so I've always been put on the side, okay, you're just a person who doesn't speak English. So I kind of accepted that And I said, okay, well, if everybody expected I don't do well, with the exception of my parents, obviously, but everybody else, it's okay if she doesn't do well. So I became like, okay, it's okay that I don't do well. And then later on, as time passed, in 4th grade, that my teacher actually wanted to let me back, it's because I talk a lot in class, but my grades were not improving. And then obviously there's also like some racism that was put into the fact because I was very outspoken. I would challenge the teachers all the time, and but my grades weren't that good because teachers are okay with students that do well in class but challenge them. But I challenged her in a negative way, and so just because of my behavior, she has graded my tests. Like my essays or things like that, in a higher, to be a little bit harder on me, so she would purposely fail me in that aspect. And I think that like that part of racism from my teacher really affected me later on. I mean, after that, it kind of got to me and be like, okay, I need to study. So from 5th grade on, I was super kid, but before then, it was really tough.
So that was actually in elementary school.
It was in elementary.
That's all the way through 5th, 6th grade?
Well, I was in the New York system, so it's 1st to 6th grade.
1st to 6th. Yeah. So that kind of thing could happen, you're telling us, in elementary school. So in this case, it may or may not be related to the fact that you came here with not so good English at the time. But the bottom line is that the teacher actually could allow this become a factor that impacting you. I think that's something we parents really like to know. So you were rebellious, but when you were in high school, you weren't that only one that below average, right? You were already caught up.
Yeah, I mean, it took there's a lot of factors that got into the reason why in 5th grade I became into the honor system and things like that. But I constantly had the negative reinforcement from everybody else besides my parents. They wanted me to do well, but they don't know how to help me.
What did your parents tend to tell you? Would you share with us? If you say get a bad grade, you came home. What was it like? In your case, okay, I will find out what your parents said. But what your parents said about it?
Well, the thing is, like I said, I was very rebellious.
Yes.
So
how old were you?
What?
6, 7 years?
Yeah, 6, 7 years old. I was very rebellious. Yeah. So sometimes when report cards come, I don't even tell my parents until it's like forced. And then I'm like, oh, just sign this. Oh, gotta go. Okay. Things like that. So I'm not your typical like Asian kid.
Sure. So did they get a chance to even comment on your behavior or give you the support or criticism?
The only word was, you have to do good or else. And then, that's it.
They never told you what else was.
Well, it's understood that you'll get beatings, you'll not have anything, and no toys, no nothing. It's understood. It's really? Like this unspoken language between a mother and a child.
Will you ever get beat up?
Of course. I think.
Sounds like you deserved it.
I know. I honestly think I did, but then I think there were other things that my parents could have tried to understand me a little bit more, because I was constantly getting negative reinforcement instead of positive.
Correct. Looking back, because we're talking about elementary school, what do you wish your parent had done to help you, given the circumstances you were in?
Well, I think they could have cared a little bit more about how I really think versus how I'm doing academically. Mm-hmm. And how I'm behaving in school or how I'm behaving in class. Because I don't want to go into details of child psychology. It's because if you constantly tell your kids you have to do this, but with no reason of why you need to do this, it is hard for a child to constantly understand. Well, why do I need to get an A? Why do I need to be good? And then also at the same time, I'm getting a lot of attention. Mm-hmm. I'm not getting the attention if I'm doing well. Mm-hmm. I'm getting the attention if I behave in an inappropriate way.
Correct. So you would wish the parent could have given you more kind of guidance in terms of the reasons behind their expectations.
Yeah.
So that's now you know. But at the time you never asked them for why. Or
I
you
didn't know.
You didn't know. You know, like all of the kids. You know, well. So tell me, I saw you laughing. Like, what was your parents' comments usually when you bring back home report card?
Let's see. By this time, I think I have my parents' lectures all memorized by heart.
Oh. What was it like?
There's the we came to America for you. You have to there's that one. There's the you don't do good, you'll embarrass the family, and we'll lose face. Yeah, those two are pretty big ones.
Okay. So what kind of impact were those comments on you at the time?
I know. It's like it makes you feel really guilty.
Guilt trip.
Like you're responsible for them, like coming to America and not being happy. Apparently.
Yeah. So thank you. So anything you'd like to add to elementary?
Well, about the whole report card and grades issue. Well, sometimes I remember last year I came home and my report card, it was like straight A+. Like it couldn't get any better. And my parents' reaction, it was just like, oh, good job, you know. It wasn't anything like, wow, you know, good job. It was just some monotone, that's great, you know. It's it's expected kind of, but the thing about it's also in a lot of Caucasian parents, one thing I like about them is they really compliment and support their kids. When they have some big achievement, they really show you know that their children worked hard and they really show that they you know they're proud of them.
So when you were young, you know, I know this thing just happened last year, but when you were young, you know, did you notice that being a Chinese, you receive different kind of reaction from your parents than your Caucasian or non-Chinese kids? Did you notice that? Were you aware of, you know, as you described? So when you describe, let me paraphrase. What you describe is now you know. You know, their parents will throw a party if they get all B+, you know, and my parents, you know, didn't say just you know, and A+. So that's now you know. When you were younger, did you know that, or you just didn't know? You were
not really. When I was little, you know, you're little, you don't really think about it.
So your dad tells you to get good grades, you just get good grades, and then when you get good grades, he didn't celebrate. You just feel that's the way it is. You know, or what was going on?
Well, I don't really remember.
You don't remember? Good. Either it's too happy, nothing happened, or too painful to remember. Okay, so we were talking about elementary schools just from that angle. Would you like to read your card?
What was your experience like when you were in high school? Well, we're talking about identity, or
yeah, in that.
Yeah,
I know high school tends to be whoa, everything's going on. What do you want me to talk about? The experience, but mostly related to being a Chinese. You know, again, you know, anything parents didn't know at the time. You know, anything negative, particularly. You know, that we parents really wanted to know.
Well, from ever since elementary school and onward, I have to, my background, I grew up in New York. So obviously there's a lot of Asian people there, so I never really had an identity crisis when I was growing up. I always knew I was Chinese, I was born there, and I came here, so I have this big memory. Never had any issue until I moved here in my junior year of high school, where it's a very suburban area. Of the Asians, I would say Asians because I don't even know if they're Chinese or not because I never spoke with them. They are very Americanized. They don't speak their language. They don't even go around. You know, they just know that they are Asian, and that's it. It's on the surface. It's like wearing polo or something.
As opposed to your former Asian friends, they actually spoke the language. They
know they're comfortable with themselves. I'm comfortable with myself until I moved here, where the identity issue starts to grow. Whereas in, yeah, like we don't really discuss race. We don't really discuss anything. It's more of, you know, wherever it's in fashion or school grades, and obviously that time is like, you know, SATs and things like that. But nothing really related to like identity. And then I myself were having trouble because now, like before, my friends and I would always talk about these, being Asian American and not parents understanding and things like that, you know, venting to each other. But now when I have all these new friends, I felt like I was losing.
You feel suddenly they don't have the kind of problem you had.
Yeah.
They all like this, what do we call them? Banana? What? You know, they all
banana.
What do you call
Whitewash.
What?
Whitewashed.
Whitewash bananas.
They're bananas, but like, we call them whitewash.
Oh, just whitewashed.
Yeah.
Okay. So for you, it was a change, and it wasn't. My understanding, you sounded like it was more a geographic change, not as aged. When you talk to your older friends, were they in the same boat with you, or they were still kind of feel comfortable with their identity because they were in New York?
No, I think it was the geographic change that. Well, first of all, when I was in high school, I went to Brooklyn Tech High School. It's a pretty prestigious high school where everybody comes to, like, there are mostly Asian who takes these standardized tests to come in. So each class population was 1,000. So that's 4 years, that's 4,000 people in one school. And then like 40% are Asian. So I would have no problem with any Asian friends. And then when I moved here, it was a huge change, you know. Now you have, you know, the population grew smaller and the ability to find friends become, like, you know, limited. And then...
What was it like when you went through that? You know, you don't have friends to vent when you feel your parents didn't understand you. You know, so you what actually do you, now looking back, what went through your mind? You know, like anything kind of negative, positive, you know, bothering you?
During that time, it was definitely a negative experience. Whereas in all of a sudden, you know, Miss Popular became Miss Nobody.
You used to be popular.
Yes, I used to be popular.
Okay, now you become Miss.
And then I become Miss Nobody. And everybody in that area grew up ever since they were toddlers together. Yeah. And then I'm an outsider coming in, and you know, they don't know me. For as much as they don't, they think that I only speak Asian language. They don't care what language I spoke. I spoke Asian language, and that to them was a different language. So I had a really hard time finding friends, period. So it was a negative experience, which now is rewarding because I saw everything from a different perspective.
Correct. But back then, what was your parents' role in that whole confusion or suffering?
Well, my parents really just said, suck it up, basically.
They just kept on to suck it up.
This is life.
Okay.
Move on, you know, just one step at a time. But mentally, as you know, just being a teenager, that kind of a change, like with nobody really understanding. And then I would talk to my friends from New York. They don't understand me now because now I'm in a different environment, which they really can't relate to. And then my new limited friends don't really understand me, period.
So did you talk to your parents about what kind of help you may wish they were giving you at the time?
No, there was no communication about it. I just told them I don't really like this place, and you know, their response. And then mostly I became more innate from that because I can talk to anybody, and nobody can talk to me because they don't really understand me. So it turned into, I would say, like a mental health issue, whereas in I was not healthy mentally because now instead of, you know, talking on the phone, going out with friends, I would be very happy to go home and sleep. And the best part is to be covered in a blanket where it's pitch dark. I remember that was the best experience for me.
That was in 9th grade.
No, that's in junior.
Junior.
11th, 12th grade, yeah.
11th, 12th, junior high, yeah. So that's when you suspect yourself could be not physically, mentally healthy.
Well, yeah, I mean, okay, so, we're talking about mental health issue. I'm okay with people knowing that I was clinically depressed at that period of time. You watch television, they have all these, commercials, and you're like, oh, I'm kind of fitting these categories. So, going online, researching about what's going on. I brought up the subject. I was like, Mom, I think I'm not, all there, mentally, because, from a big change of emotions to that. My parents don't accept it. It's, I don't know if they really was in denial or if they just really don't like to know. It's not something that they, they're proud of because, in a sense, I'm suspecting that they felt guilty moving me from such a nice place that I call it to here. But they wanted a different change for me because there's too much gangsters in like New York and things like that. But
which you were very popular, So wow. they felt sort of guilty.
I suspect.
At the time, did you feel they were guilty?
No, I think that they're just being unreasonable.
So at the time, as a teenager, you see them as being unreasonable, understanding.
Yeah.
You're only saying that they were guilty now as a grown-up. So at the time, if you told them you had this suspicion about your mental state. So would you mind telling us a little bit more?
Yeah, sure.
So then what happened?
I had to lie to my parents saying that I'm having headache, which is one of the symptoms of being clinically depressed. It's having really bad headaches. And I went to my doctor. On headache situation, and I talked to him, a little bit more about how I was feeling, how I was what was going on in my change and things like that. So he diagnosed me. He said, well, I'm not in need of a psychiatrist. I'm not bipolar or anything. But he said that I should go on, antidepressant pills for a while, which I did, and I told my parents it's for headaches, which, because I've spoken to them about it a little bit, kind of hinting a little bit, but they are non-receptive to it, so I just discarded it until 2 months after taking the antidepressant, when I saw a change in myself, and then I came out to the open, I told my mom about it, and then she still was in denial. She's like, oh, you should stop, I think my mom loved to be best as a doctor. She likes to be the doctor of the family. She likes to diagnose me. I've spoken to a lot of parents too. Like moms tend to feel like they like to be doctors. Then she was telling me you're going to be dependent on it and everything like that. And she convinced me not to take the drugs, but I let her believe that because I already spoke with my doctor, and my doctor said you're fine and you don't need it anymore. But I think it was difficult.
It was difficult with all that changes and with that kind of experience. Yet you felt, looking back, parents could have given you different kind of guidance. What kind of guidance would you wish they kind of gave you? Or support?
If they listen, I think
they
listen.
You really wish they had listened.
Yes, because I was just saying before, they dismissed me with, oh, it's okay, it's all right, you need to deal with it, go on. But rather, really sitting down and really, not to, be a psychiatrist and really find exactly what's wrong, but at least would listen to what I'm trying to say, instead of, I think maybe I didn't have to be pushed to, to stay, and then I had an early recognition of what's going on. But then, if it was not detected early enough, I would have been suicidal or things like that. So I was very glad that I saw this commercial.
yeah, you saw the commercial. That's very fortunate. In a way, let me just try something. If I were a parent, with daughter like you, then if I would, when you were talking to me these things, if I would just say, no, I don't have any medical background, if I would just say, oh really, honey, let's sit down. Tell me more about it. Is that how you feel? Wow, I'm so sorry you feel this way, really. Anything I could help to make you even feel better? I mean, I probably can't really help you to solve all your problems, or I probably, Mom, I can't really find friends for you. But anything else you think I could help? If that kind of thing, I mean, looking back, do you think might be a good start, or?
I think it's very important.
Or you don't think, oh, well, that's too shallow still. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it's very important for, parents, my parents and I, to build a personal relationship. Because if I came out, I was reluctant to tell my parents about it because we don't have a very good personal relationship.
Okay.
So, and if my mom came down and said that, I would think, oh, that's too surfaced. Okay. But if we had a very good relationship, then I think it would have been so much easier for me to come out and say, like, well, look, I have this problem, et cetera, et cetera.
So my understanding is because of the lack of communication leading to that age, so all you could do was trying to hint the parents something was not right going on. And then parents, continuing that pattern of communication, kind of just dismiss it. And so you're telling me actually kids at that age actually would love to talk to their parents. I mean, to share. If now looking back, it's not like, oh no kids wants to talk to their parents. Or, I mean, what kind of?
No, I think it's my personal preference to want my parents to know what's going on because I felt that, it's very important because my parents are in charge of me financially and shelter as well. So it's very important for, and transportation as well too. So if I need to go somewhere, I need my parents to, allow me to go or things like that. So I really want them to understand, like, why I want to go to this party. It's not because I want to, well, yeah, I want to hang out with my friends, but, maybe it's something else, or I really like to look at the dress or something like, I mean, it could be something very shallow or something like that. But it's, I think it's very important for my mom to understand why I want to do certain things.
And now you want your mom to understand. Back then, did you wish your mom understand?
Yeah, I constantly.
Okay. So as you said, it's interesting. You said, at least for you, you wish your mom could talk to you more, or you wanted to talk to your mom. Don't feel you could be the single case. We've had this forum multiple times. Every time, it's the same ways. Kids telling us, teenagers telling us, I wish I could talk to my parents more. And usually, here, correct me, or I want to hear your comments. Yeah. It's the parents' perception. But our kids don't want to talk to us. I mean, they want to talk to their friends. And when they talk to us, it's just 2 words, good, fine, no problem. What do you think? Help us here. Some of us might be in previous sessions, but some of us may not be. We wanted to understand that. What leads to that, or what's your comment?
Well, I guess my parents came here, we all as immigrants, and they had to work hard. So both my parents worked. So I was like home alone most of the time, and they would come home pretty late and they were tired, and they didn't have time to like talk to me, right? So I guess like parents have to start from a young age to talk to the kids, because now it's like kind of late, and I don't feel comfortable talking to my parents anymore.
So what you're telling me, this is very, 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 very interesting. So you're saying, yeah, right. You need to talk to us when we were young.
Yeah.
Opening that communication channel. Then, when we're teenagers, we wouldn't feel uncomfortable talking.
Yeah. And I guess another thing is there's the whole Chinese thing about parents are like your elders. You're supposed to like respect them. It's not like really with Caucasians where they view the parents as like friends. So I guess that's probably like another thing that gets in the way of kids and the parents having like really deep discussions.
Yes. So in your mind, would you, if you had a choice, would you rather have parents like friends or?
Well, I guess they have to be like a good balance between like a friend and older.
Okay, so you want them to be friend, but not friend, like your friend will just agree, with you, whatever you do, So you wanted a balance. That's interesting. Anything to add to that?
Oh yeah. Well, I have something to add. Like, throughout my high school, before graduating from college, I had a very bad relationship with my parents because, like I said, they never really tried to understand. But then after fighting with them, multiple fights, after going away for college and then coming back, my dad actually was very surprisingly, he's like, maybe I wasn't a good father or we weren't good parents. He was like, well, I was reading this article on, somewhere, blah, blah, blah. He's like, I'm starting to see why you were so rebellious, kind of way. And then I think
owning the responsibility to himself.
Yeah, he took on a part of the responsibility, which made me feel better, like I wasn't like this horrible child, But at the same time, that because of that conversation, my relationship with my parents are so much better. Because now I feel like, not that we're on the same grounds or something like that, because there's still, I have to respect them, they're my parents. But in terms of the fact that there was a closer step towards each other, whereas then I see that we're meeting somewhere, because now he's like saying that, maybe I wasn't that great, maybe now I'm going to try to sit down and listen to you. So I think that really helped our relationship.
That's interesting. It sort of sounded to me like more of this lesser me here, you here, and as opposed to, a little leveling, maybe I could be wrong too, that kind of friendship, more like that, and that actually opened up the whole thing a lot more. What was your experience with your parents?
I'm undecided I'd rather talk to my friends with my parents, because I have a really good group of friends, and one of them's, and we're all very successful, both academically and outside of school, and so I trust them a lot with a lot of stuff. One of my friends, he's very talented musically. He's all-state saxophone, and he's online, and you can find him. He's very good. My other friend, he's just like, I can trust him a lot with a lot of stuff, and we have our own special way of dealing with problems, and there's not a lot of problems. Most of the time, if we have a problem, we'll laugh it out somehow, turn into a joke, and that usually works. But for stuff that you have to talk to your parents, I'm not sure, because both of them have pretty liberal parents. I asked my friend this question, and I asked, if I had a party today, and my friend was scheduled to have another party tomorrow, and my other friend was scheduled to have another party after that, would my parents let me go to all three? And no matter how much work I had, how much or how little work I had, they wouldn't let me go to all three. And then both of them agreed, and I agree with them. And they said, as long as I was able to finish my schoolwork and the parties did not inhibit my academic growth, I would let you go to all three parties. And that's something I couldn't understand, because
you could or couldn't?
I couldn't.
Okay.
Because I would go to one party, and then my parents would say, and then after that I would want to go to a movie theater the next day to see a movie. And they would say, you're spending too much time having fun, you should spend more time studying.
Even though you finished all your work.
Exactly, and I finished all my work, and I do even more stuff that, that I don't really have to do right away. And yet they still don't want me to have too much fun. And
fun is bad with Chinese parents. Wasting of time. But go ahead. Yeah.
I can understand their point now, but both my friend's parents are pretty liberal, so they take a more rational, I guess, route. And I'm undecided to which one is better, because I fully just agree with their method of thinking, and theirs is if I can finish this, why not go to all three parties? Because then I have more fun and I learn more.
Your friends were non-Chinese.
They are Chinese.
They are Chinese, but they actually have more liberal
parents
than you have.
And
okay.
My parents, I'm trying to argue with them to see it that way now, and a lot of my arguments are usually me trying to use reason, and then they're trying to refute it now. But
just using power.
Yeah.
And you're trying to reason. They said, but this is.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And and now, like whenever I have a debate with my friend, I'm actually arguing both with my friend and against my friend because I agree with my parents, but I also agree with my friends.
So you can find more and more your parents in you now. So certain things they say more enough, you know, that's sometimes, I tell the truth, that's sometimes, there's rumor floating around of parents here. I tell you that they say, even though they don't want to listen, keep talking about it. One of these days it's going to sink in. I mean, that's what parents are talking about, to tell the truth, you know. So have you ever wondered, you know, why these parents kept saying these things? I'm not listening, man. That's how to believe. I'm just sharing that with you. I'm not saying I'm better or worse or I agree or disagree. But it's interesting that you actually, I mean, the fact is that you would actually start saying things sort of in your parents' voice because you heard it enough, in a way. So you when you're arguing with yourself, I'm not encouraging parents to do that, but I'm just saying that's sometimes what happens. Then it's interesting. So you pretty much felt that you had a very good group of friends to grow up with. So at the time, whether you were in adolescence, teenager years, you didn't feel a lot of, say, burning desire to, say, vent with your parents or wish your parents understand more. To you, it wasn't like that.
It's actually more like I wish that. Well, last year for me, like for example, I had not bad teachers, but ones that tended to grade harder on me. So, and all my friends had the easier teachers. So it's more like I was trying to, I was being more hard on myself than my parents being hard on me, but they were still pretty hard on me. So, like them being hard on me just added to my burden. So I was feeling enough pressure on myself, and I didn't really need their added help. And I believe I'm pretty successful. I take a lot of leadership roles and leader of a lot of clubs after school, and my grades are very well. And I went to science competitions, politics competitions, debate competitions, and I did very well in all of them. And like, I believe I'm pushing myself hard enough, but then they add more burden on me. But so now I kind of just like ignore their burden now.
So you kind of learned you have this you have this mechanism to deal with the pressure. So or coming from them. If among us there are parents who have children like you, with all these signs, of involvement, self-motivation, what would you wish they do with their children? I mean, their children are just like you. What would you like to tell them to do with their children?
I think, like, my township is, where are you? What township? East Brunswick? Oh, yeah, I know East Brunswick. Actually, all of us are, we're from pretty competitive schools, but, and I guess I'm more competitive than some of my classmates. And so I guess that competition drives us to do everything. A lot of us, I volunteer at the hospital on Sundays, and during the information session, I went there and I asked how many people from my grade were volunteering there. And I noticed that the entire list was Asian, and almost the entire list. And then, so I think we have around 90 Asian people in our grade, and 86 of them applied to the hospital. So that just shows like how much like we're all self-motivated to work, and I guess it's a good thing.
So what do you wish their parents do with you? To give them like more rooms, or keep the hammer on, what would you like to tell them?
That's a really hard question, because some students I see that no matter how hard you push them, once you stop pushing them, they'll become lazy and they won't do anything.
But then they already do the kind of thing you do. They already get the kind of grades you get. You don't wish your parents keep the pressure on, or do you?
I think I would like them to keep a very minimal amount of pressure.
but don't just say, oh yeah, you got it down, and I trust. So you still have that a little bit self-doubt. You say at this age, you like the parents have a little pressure on, but just don't don't overdo it.
Yeah.
Because you pretty much, you need that a little bit extra room. You feel that. Okay, so that's interesting. We haven't given you a chance to talk for a while. You want to share something? In particular, where were we? We started with high school, and the parents. You said you just started high school, right? Yes. So okay, but just in general, what was your? Is your dad here? Oh, okay. He's okay. Okay. So because we have 15 minutes left. Anything you want to talk about? Let's say, what do you have here?
Well, my question, it says, what kind of friends did you have when you were in middle school? Mm-hmm. Well, okay, so about that. Well, in elementary school, like, it was like, I kind of had, like, friends, like, in, like, from, like, every race. Like, I think that was because, it was because, like starting kind of from middle school, like, the classes, they divide into, like, honors and, like, higher level classes. And the Asians, like, a lot of them, they tend to be in the higher level classes. So in middle school, like, I just, like, kind of made friends with them.
So you, in middle school, you were more like, you were in advanced class, right?
Yeah.
Or with these Asian kids?
Right.
But you just said you have friends of all kinds of...
Yeah, but I was in elementary school.
Elementary school, and moving on,
yeah.
Okay.
But then in middle school, as, like, they divided, in 6th grade, we were still kind of friends, but then they just kind of, like, it was kind of like we got farther and farther apart as, like, the classes got, more they, like, my friends, like, we were really good friends, but they weren't too smart, so so they kind of, like, drifted away because I was in, like, higher classes and they were in, like classes, like, lower.
What kind of friends do you have then, in middle school? Did you actually have more Asian friends turn out to be?
Yeah, so in middle school, I think, I got more and more Asian friends.
More and more Asian friends, but in your case, it was more because the academic kind of level you were all in. I mean, looking back, would you, do you have anything to say about having American friends or non-Chinese friends versus Asian, non-Asian friends versus Asian friends? Were there any issues there? Other than the fact you were just in the same class.
Well, what happened was, I remember, like, some of my, like, in middle school, like, social levels kind of started to form. And
Social what? Social life.
Social levels.
Social levels, cliques, 小集团啊.
And the thing was, like, some of the people who are, like, really, like, popular now, like, I was best friends with them in, like, 1st or 2nd grade. And, but, like, I think it's, like, a lot of it's, like, due to the, different classes and everything that happened. But, yeah.
So in her case, it wasn't by a choice. Say, I just wanted to be friends with them because they look like me. So it wasn't quite like that. So that's interesting. Well, you all had a chance to say. I wanted to see whether any of our audience, parents, wanted to have any questions for them. You're very welcome to come over. Or you're really, really shy, you can just stand up and talk. But actually, because we have pretty much
identity in terms of the American culture and Chinese culture. For example, the way we eat our dinner. Like my 6-year-old just told me she went to an Indian friend's house and came back, and that family happens to be very formal at dining. So everybody was served this big dish, this small dish, this bowl soup, kind of very neat. So she came home and complained that our dinner was messy because we put the dishes in the middle and just share, right? And so I was angry. I said, "Oh, you are Chinese." I like to be Chinese. I just don't like the way we eat. So then later on, she said, Mom, I know we are Chinese. We like the messy way. We are Indian. We like the neat way. It makes me feel very bad. So I just want to see in your daily life and the way your parents deal with you, talk with you, play or not play sports with you. what are the things might add to the confusion or ease the confusion or help you to develop your identity?
Well, in school, me and a couple of my friends, we try to get them to give out chopsticks during cafeteria, so that way you didn't have to eat with forks or spoons, to use chopsticks, but they didn't allow us to.
So, anything particular your parents helped or
I kind of like the way we eat them. It's like part of our culture, you know?
So anytime when you had questions about anything related to this identity things, your parents try to help but actually make things worse. You know, they're pretty cool.
I think I resolved my identity thing on my own.
So you pretty much resolve your identity issue per se on your own. So your parents didn't help or make it worse.
I really don't have the issue that much. Like, I haven't thought about it until today.
I heard I've heard it as a boy thing, you know, not having too much of an identity issue until they're in college. So just wait, you know. Well, we don't know. We wanted to hear about it. You know, how about you want to answer Sandra's question, or not in particular? We don't have to. You know.
Oh well. Identity issue, like I said, I grew up in New York, and then I came here, and I spoke a little bit yesterday with you, is that I see identity as in 3 different categories, as you're being Chinese, you're being American Chinese, and you're being Chinese American. It's the reason why that came about is because I noticed when I was in New York, I know I was Chinese, I was practicing Chinese cultures, but I have a lot of American ideas, but I put Chinese first because I know I'm Chinese, I know I'm different, not in a bad way, but just I'm, a minority. Whereas when I came to New Jersey, I noticed a lot, like I was explaining before, I noticed a lot of people really didn't see themselves as Chinese. They saw themselves as American, but just wearing, Chinese skin. And then, we had differences of that. So I was trying to explain to my parents, I was like, they're like, oh, there's Asian people here, you can be friends with them, because I was complaining. I was like, but they're not really Asian. They're not really.
They don't think they're Asian.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. So chances are a lot of these are left to kids to figure it out. Any questions? Okay, that's good. Okay, add something.
Well, I think for me, actually, it's more about what other people decide my identity to be rather than what I decide my identity to be. Because if you ask an Asian person in my grade what they think I am, and they'll say I'm Asian. If you ask a white person, they'll say I'm white. And if you ask an African American, they'll say I'm African American. So, I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Multiple identities. Well, any other questions? Yes, come over.
I did notice most of your kids are wonderful kids. You have great grades. One question I have is now, especially for London, you guys look back, most of the Chinese parents are very pushy. You have to play piano, excellent grades, have to know all the activities. You look back, should we be pushy or should we back off? Do you think those activities eventually benefit you in your life?
I just want to make one little comment. I loved music, and my mom saw that when I was a little bit younger, and she immediately thought I should be a musician. So,
we parents tend to do that.
Yeah, so I still do love music, but now I hate piano because my mom pushed me so much to the point that every time I see the piano, I would run away. Until this day, my piano's still sitting at home, and only when my parents are not there, I will go play it, because I'm afraid that if I start playing in front of my parents, she'll be like, oh, you're talented again. So she'll push me again. So.
Anything on the head? Tell us what your dad pushed you to do. He's listening, but it's okay. He's left, okay, good. Oh no, he's still there.
Well, I think that like it does benefit them, but I think like they should be like nicer about it, and like they should be like trying to like explain it more, like why they're making them do it.
We thought we explained to kids. They just like don't sink in. Do we need to constantly be explaining ourselves? What do you think?
Well, a lot of times it's just like do it. It'll get you into like Harvard. It'll make you smarter. But
that's not good enough reason, right? For kids. Oh, so stop using that. Okay. Okay. Now for Harvard, what do you say? It's good for your what? What kind of reason you would think will get you going?
Well, I guess it is, but it's some of it is also about like passion, like if they really like it, like if they really hate it,
just forget it.
Yeah.
Oh. So if you have kids who love it, like Linda was, so just kind of go that route, say, wow, so you're passionate about it, but then leave it like that. Don't push.
No, but if they really like it, then you should encourage them to pursue it.
But and then kind of leave it to them to drive it.
No, encourage it.
But she liked it. She was over encouraged. She hated it now. Where's the boundaries? If you get kids who hate it, we push them, and that's not the way to go. We have kids who love it, we push it, and then she hates it. So it's like, what do you, in hindsight, what do you think would be right for us? Well, we parents need that.
Well, I think that it really depends on your child's personality. If they are self-driven, and if you put too much pressure, it will only break them. But then if they are very passive, and then you realize that if you push a little bit, it increases a little bit, then that you should continue pushing to a point that they can handle, not overboard. But it really depends on their personality, because if they're really self-driven already, it will only break them with more pressure.
How much time do we have? Jenny, how much time do we have? 2 more minutes. Okay. Okay. That's a good question. I think unless you guys want.
Like I said, I was very rebellious prior to that.
Okay.
But later on, how do I explain it? My personality, I'm not sure about other people, is that it requires positive reinforcement. So if I get a little, oh, you did a good job, for some reason I would make sure that I meet this expectation later on. So I compete with not other people, I compete with myself.
So when you played piano, was it like that?
No, because I was already doing better than before. My mom's like, well, so-and-so is doing better.
That so-and-so is the thing that break a kid. So don't say that,
No, but like I said, I compete with myself. So if I think I'm doing better than myself today, then tomorrow I should do better, and then do better.
So here we had a case. You already had the passion. You were motivated enough to be better than yourself than yesterday. And what you didn't want, the parents, was that comparing with somebody else. That really broke that motivation. So, well, okay, thank you. I know we're running out of time. You have something to add? No? Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I only played piano for 3 months, and then I actually didn't really mind it because I liked my teacher, and she was a really nice person. And I thought piano was cool, but the problem was every time I had free time, whether it was after dinner or, even right after I got from school, it was like you have to practice more.
Oh, the parents kept telling me, no, you have free time, go have fun, practice.
Yeah.
No.
I would find free time on my own to practice, but even if it was the same amount of time, I just didn't like it that they actually spend every single moment pushing me to do it.
So what I heard is, number one, even if you're self-driven, you don't mind doing it, you had an interest to do it, to practice, you don't want to be doing it every single moment when your parents feel like you're wasting your time, Number two, was it if really you were doing it every single moment, you want it to be from you, not being told, whoop, you need to do it, right? So that, yeah, I heard you. Anything to add? Did you play piano?
Yeah. I have a little sister now, she's playing, and my mom makes her practice 2 hours a day.
How old is she?
1 hour.
Okay.
She's going into 3rd grade.
She's going to the third grade. She practice 1 hour per day.
Yeah, that's how you kill your kids' interest in playing.
My kids play 5 minutes a day. That's why they continue playing until 6th grade now.
Yeah, but like, when they're that small, you shouldn't make them practice.
Okay. That's what how you kill the kids' interest. Anything else to add? Okay. Well, I hate to end here, but wonderful sharing. So, parents, don't you agree? It's wonderful. Let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, Linda. And let us give the teenager and our moderator another round of applause. Hold on a second, we're going to award you the certificate of appreciation. I would like to invite Ying.
这实话实说，可真是实话实说哈，一点水分都没有。接下来我们有几个certificates of appreciation to be awarded to the participants. The first one, okay, Mr. Conway Yao. Okay, Conway Yao. Okay, 谢谢你的那个 sharing 哈。Miss Linda Fu for being part of that too. And then Mr. Tom Wan and Miss Lindy Wan and our Bonnie, and she moderated the first session in 2004 and then 2005 and 2006 by Hong Tia, and then this is her second forum to be moderated by Bonnie. We really appreciate it.